Hey there, welcome back. My name is Katie if you're new to my channel, and this is Louisiana Cooking and Living. And today we are going to be making some southern sides. Things that you might want to make to go along with something you're cooking for dinner. You have a meat you've thought about, but you're not quite sure what to make with it. So we're going to make those southern sides today. We're going to be doing some skillet fried potatoes and onions, some Brussels sprouts, and succotash. So if you're interested in these yummy sides, we are happy to have you follow along. But first thing we're going to do is we're going to go out to the garden and get some purple onion to go with those Brussels sprouts. So come along with me out to the garden and let's see what we got going. So here are these girls always wanting a treat when we come out, and there's Mr. Johnny right there in the middle protecting his girls. They've already gotten some mealworms and corn today. So they've had their treats, but they are not going to shy away from other treats. All right, let's take a look at the garden today. Unfortunately, the girls got out one day and dug up everything, so we've kind of had to start from scratch again. But we have some sugar snap peas growing here. Back here in this other bed, they did not get my pinto beans. They are climbing the trellis really well. And looks like this zucchini here did not make it. This one's not doing so hot. This one's doing better. And then on the back side of here, we do have some bell peppers. I was able to harvest one bell pepper yesterday, but you can see there's a few peeking down in here. They did dig up most of my pepper plants, so I had to reseed those, and those take a long time to germinate. And these poor onions. Well, I've had some volunteer tomatillo plants in these onion beds. I have never even planted a tomatillo plant in these beds, but here we are with volunteers, this massive volunteer one here. But these onions have had a time. What I have, I'm very grateful for. These chickens dug these up 3 times. So we are grateful for what we do have. Tomatoes are doing well over here. We have some flowers on our plants. Let's see if we can find us a red onion here to go with our Brussels sprouts. Let's see. I think we'll pull this one. So first red onion to harvest. I have harvested a couple of the white onions, which are actually bigger than the red onions. Here you can see them, and I need to go ahead and harvest the rest of these and get them drying. And they also decimated my garlic bed, and this was lettuce here on the end. They ate all the lettuce, and then I need to pull all this garlic. They pulled up my cucumbers and my watermelons that were for these trellises, so I had to reseed those. And then I have some sunflowers here. Looks like this one. There's Johnny crowing. This one's getting close to opening. And here's the watermelon plants. Very tiny right now because we had to restart those. Another squash, zucchini. This bed is full of potatoes, but then we also have these volunteer tomatillo plants. Now, tomatillos were planted in this bed last year, but these tomatillos are very invasive. They seem to be coming up everywhere. And again, some more tomatoes here. And some basil here planted on the end. So let's get to the kitchen and we'll start making our sides. All right, so the first thing we're going to get to is our skillet fried potatoes. Those will probably take the longest to get ready. So we're going to get those sliced up. I've already washed my potatoes. I have 4 russet, pretty large russet potatoes here. And I have onion from the garden that I had harvested yesterday. So this is so fun to be able to use ingredients that I have grown. Of course, my potatoes are not ready yet to harvest those, but we do have our onions that we'll be using today, a white onion and a red onion. So let's get busy slicing our potatoes. You could certainly peel your potatoes if you'd like. I'm just going to leave the peels on. They have extra nutrients in them, and so we're going to leave our peels on. And if you wanted to use like a mandolin to slice this, you certainly may. I'm just going to slice them by hand, about this thick. I'm not good at measurements. 1/4 of an inch. So we'll get these sliced up. If you notice, my potatoes are not sticking to my knife. This knife is called a Santoku knife, and it has these cutouts in it, and it allows the, let's see, the moisture from the potato makes it stick to the knife. But if you have these little cutouts, it makes that vacuum not happen. So that's a neat little tool to have if you don't have one of these. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get our onion peeled here. I'm gonna peel the dirty peel on this paper towel and not onto my cutting board. And then I'll rinse my knife off. The other day we pulled one of these onions from the garden to chop to have with our tacos, and it was so neat that the onion was warm because it had just come from the ground, but it wasn't warm because we had heated it, and it was just kind of just a neat feeling that you produced this onion. So here in Louisiana, onions go in the ground October, November time, and they are in the ground all winter into spring, and so it's a big investment, time investment in onions. All right, actually I might do a second onion. Let me grab another one. And these scraps will go right back into my compost to feed my garden for next year. Let me rinse this off. So we have 4 pretty large potatoes and 2, probably a medium-sized onions here. All right, let's move over to the stovetop and get these cooking. All right, so we have a cast iron skillet here, and we're gonna add some avocado oil to this. And I have it up on a medium high. We'll do a good amount. We wanna cover the bottom. And we're gonna just go around and start layering in our potatoes. We want them to get good and crispy on the bottom, and then we're gonna, stir around and everything. So we're just layering these in here. And once we get a layer, we're gonna salt and pepper it because we gotta layer as we go. We wanna make sure everything has good seasoning. I'm gonna put some onions down, and then we're just gonna keep layering our potatoes on top. All right, we're gonna let these cook. We're gonna start flipping them once they start browning. All right, so the next thing we're gonna be making are these baby lima beans for our succotash. So I'm just gonna go ahead and pour this whole bag in. This is a 12-ounce bag. To this, we're gonna add some bacon grease. When you cook up bacon, you should always save your bacon drippings for seasoning different vegetables or cooking your eggs in. Don't throw that bacon grease away. So I'm gonna add a couple of tablespoons, I guess, in here. And then to this, we're gonna add just some water. You want enough water to cover them, not terribly, like not really deep in the pot, but just enough to cover them. They're gonna absorb all this liquid and soften up. And then we're gonna add some salt. And that is all I put in my lima beans. I'm going to cover this so it'll come to a simmer faster. Once it comes to a simmer, we will reduce our temperature just so that it doesn't like boil over or anything. So back over to our potatoes here. Let's give these a flip and see what we got going on. All right, we're getting some really pretty color over here. You want to flip them gently so you don't throw them all over you or the kitchen. They're very hot. All right, these we're going to let simmer. I've turned the temperature down now so that, not simmer, I guess, saute. We're going to let them go for a little while to start softening. If you had a lid on your skillet, I guess you could do that, but I don't want them to get soggy either. So I don't put a lid on my skillet. But I did turn the temperature down so they'll start softening and browning at the same time. And let's move over to the Brussels sprouts. So I just have a bag of fresh Brussels sprouts here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the stem end off and then cut them in half. Just throw them on my sheet pan. And of course, remove any leaves that don't look so good or damaged spots. And we're going to roast these on 400 till they're crispy. They're so good this way. I've showed you in the past where I will take my bulk garlic and then throw it in the food processor, use a cookie scoop, scoop it out on the sheet pan, flash freeze it, and then I have these little garlic individual portions here. Put those in a Ziploc bag and I can use those for fresh garlic. So I have 2 of these, so about 3 tablespoons of garlic. Kind of trying to let it thaw while I'm doing all this because that is frozen still. To this, we're going to add that fresh red onion we pulled from the garden. I think I'm going to give these scraps to the chickens instead of to the compost. Chickens cannot have fresh onion or fresh potato, so those other scraps will go to the compost. But they will certainly love these Brussels sprout scraps. I didn't really like Brussels sprouts. Honestly, I probably had never tried them, but you have a stigma in your mind about a Brussels sprout. And my friend had made this for me one time, and then I was kind of leery at first, but I was willing to try it, and they were okay. But now that I've been making them and eating them more, I really do like them. So if you've never tried a Brussels sprout, you should definitely try this application. They're not, I don't know, I guess I was thinking of like a cooked cabbage or something, Brussels sprouts that way, and I think that's the way my mom made them. And you couldn't buy them fresh. They were already frozen and soggy. They just weren't appealing to me. So doing them this way, they're really yummy, so they get crispy. Now I'm gonna use olive oil today, but you could certainly do bacon drippings. I've done that numerous times. I think I might chop up some bacon and throw that in at the end because I have some already cooked bacon. So it crisps up with it. We're gonna do a balsamic maple glaze on these. So that balsamic and that maple will go really good with the bacon. If I hadn't mentioned it, we're gonna get these in the oven on 400 degrees so they get crispy. All these veggies would be great as like a veggie plate if you wanted to do just a veggie plate for dinner. But today we are having smoked brisket with all this. My husband has been smoking a brisket all night. So that's what's going to be served with this. All right, let's get that red onion straight from the garden. I'll cut this off. All right, let's get this rinsed off. And when I'm doing onion like this to go roasted with my vegetables, I just kind of chop it into chunks and then break these apart. So let's get this pan over here. Kind of break these apart. The contrast of those red onions with the green Brussels sprouts is really pretty. All right, we're gonna do some salt and pepper on this. Drizzle that olive oil. Give these a good toss. Try and break up this garlic. It thaws pretty quickly. I'd just taken it out of the freezer. All right, we'll spread these out good so they can get nice and crispy. And we're going to put these in a 400-degree oven, and we're just going to roast them until they're nice and toasty. Because they don't, I mean, you could eat Brussels sprouts raw, so you're just really looking to get them brown and crispy. All right, we're going to get these in the oven and move on to our corn for our succotash. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get my corn in my pot. I'm not going to start it yet because this doesn't take long at all. I just steam my corn. I do not put any liquid in here. I use frozen corn. Getting organic corn is very important so that you have non-GMO corn, because corn is one of those vegetables that's almost always a GMO product. So you need to make sure, if that's something that's important to you, that you find something that's non-GMO. Organic foods are non-GMO, but not all non-GMOs are organic. Hopefully I said that right. All right, we're just gonna get this bag in here. This is a 10-ounce bag. There's enough moisture from this being frozen that you do not need to add any liquid into the corn. This is gonna be tender but still crunchy and just super yummy. We're gonna add a little bit of salt to this. We're also going to get moisture from our butter. Let me grab a knife. I'm gonna put like 2 tablespoons of butter in here. And then to make sure, and you don't have to do this, this is definitely optional, to make sure your corn is super sweet and so yummy, I add, I'm not adding all this. This is a 1/3 cup measure and I only have half of it here. And I'm gonna add probably a half of that. So that would be 1/12 of a cup of sugar, so not much. That's about it. That just ensures super sweet corn. And I will cook this with a lid on it, and this is probably only gonna take on a medium-low, probably 7 minutes is all this takes. So I don't need to start this yet. I just wanted to go ahead while I had a second and get this ready. All right, let's take a look at our veggies here. Our lima beans are simmering nicely here. I do take the lid off once they come to a boil so some of that water will evaporate. And then our potatoes, I've been stirring these intermittently. These are cooking away nicely. I have turned these down to a medium-low because now that we've gotten some crisp on them, we want them to start softening. And I just come in here and stir them around. We don't want anything to burn on the bottom. And while you're doing this, if you're cooking some kind of meat or something, you have all your veggies going, they're just simmering, cooking away here. It's time that you can start working on your meat if you're not, if you're grilling something or whatever, because these kind of take care of themselves. They just kind of sit here and cook. So let's let these keep cooking, and we'll get the Brussels sprouts in the oven in a couple of minutes on 400. And then we'll get our corn going, and we'll be ready to taste test all these yummy veggies. All right, our Brussels sprouts have been in the oven for a few minutes and they are turning this really bright green. And I have chopped up some pre-cooked bacon. This was about 6 slices of bacon. I'm just gonna sprinkle this around, and we still have some big chunks of garlic. So we're gonna give this all a good flip. And then when this comes out, we'll drizzle our maple syrup and our balsamic vinegar on them. And we'll get these back in the oven. That bacon will get crispy. It'll flavor these really well. Our Brussels sprouts will get crispy. This will be so good. All right, let's get these back in the oven. And everything's just about ready. I'm gonna turn my corn on now. So it'll go for about 7 minutes, like I said. So let me get these back in the oven. All right, I ended up turning the broiler on for the last few minutes, and these are actually not as dark as they look like on that camera, but they are very nice and crispy. And we're gonna give these a toss. I'm sure I could have done it a minute or two shorter of a time. So we're just gonna drizzle some maple syrup over this. And then I have this balsamic vinegar. We're gonna drizzle this over the top. All right, let's toss these together. And we are gonna serve up our plates. Everything is ready to go. So let's get our plates. So the first thing we're gonna get is some of these yummy potatoes. I want to make sure I get plenty of onions because I love the onions, just like that. All right, we're going to get a little bit of our corn here that's going to be nice and sweet and a little crunchy. And then that sweetness will contrast this nice smoky, salty, bacony flavor of the lima beans. We're going to top that, and that is our succotash. All right, so let's get our Brussels sprouts and give this all a taste test. All right, let's give this all a taste test. I'm gonna start with my succotash and get a little bit of that corn, a little bit of the lima beans. That little burst of sweetness with that salty, savory lima bean, so good. Let's get our potatoes here with our onions. Those are just so yummy. Um, I don't even know I don't even know if people really do this much anymore. If they serve it, they used to serve it in restaurants around here. We don't go out to eat much, so I'm not sure if they still serve this in restaurants. We have recently been going out to eat and bringing you guys along, trying new places that we've been hearing about. So I hope you're enjoying those videos. But these potatoes, so down home, Southern cooking. All right, we'll get some onion, Brussels sprout, bacon. That maple sweetness, the tang from the balsamic vinegar gives this depth of sweetness. So good. The crispy, crunchy Brussels sprouts, so good. If you've never tried Brussels sprouts before, try them this way. You'll end up loving them. So I hope you enjoyed these recipes. I will leave you a playlist right here where you can try some other foods that we have cooked together. My logo will be over here. If you've not subscribed to follow along, you can just touch that. It'll help you subscribe very easily. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.